You're listening to the CX Innovators Podcast.
As business leaders look for ways to improve productivity and profitability, they're increasingly turning to innovative automation and self-service technologies. But keeping up with the rapid pace of new innovations can be overwhelming. Now there's a website to help you do just that. From the publishers of Kiosk Marketplace, Vending Times, and Digital Signage Today, Automation and Self-Service covers trends in artificial intelligence, robotics, kiosks, payments, and much more. Visit the site today and subscribe at www.automationandselfservice.com.
I'm Daniel Brown, editor of Digital Signage Today and contributing editor to automationandselfservice.com. And I'm joined here today by Frank Azures, who is joining us from Epson. Frank, do you want to introduce yourself and your work?
Well, first of all, thank you for pronouncing my last name perfectly. Great Spanish. Yes, I'm Frank Azures with Epson, part of the SD division for Epson, which is the small printing devices and the POS printers for our division.
Excellent. Well, I love that you said that because I've been following Epson. I went to Dallas for the Digital Signage Expo. I've seen several really cool incarnations. I think this is the first year that I'm kind of covering in depth the more self-service oriented side of the Epson families. Before we dive into the details, I'm curious because I saw some really cool tech out there from a lot of folks. What makes this year special for Epson?
Well, there's a lot, right? I mean, we have launches of new products coming out, but I think as from what you've seen already from the digital signage side, retailers, customers want a way to bring the audience back into stores or announce what they want. So we're working on a lot of cool technology to be able to do that and enhance our partners to be able to do that as well.
And would it be fair to say I see so many converging technologies that seem to be, well, I don't know how you'd even put it. Like after COVID, after the pandemic, there was so much recovery across industries, across verticals. And it seems like technology is rushing in to fill the gaps in so many ways, from advertising to labor shortages to making kind of the self-service a little bit easier. How do you think technology and Epson in particular are contributing to helping brick and mortars, retailers, even restaurants?
Well, I think it depends on which division of ours, but I can definitely speak from our side of the point of sale printers. From, as you mentioned, from the pandemic, people were rushing. Some of the technology was here, but I think it was still in its infancy. But it was quickly adapted during and post-pandemic to be able to start really serving that. Kiosks have been around probably good 15 years, but you definitely saw the increase in the self-service side of our business.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, just on a personal note, you deal with this every day. What are you most excited about? What's the one innovation that just really gets you excited?
Well, that's a hard one, right? I think, from an innovation standpoint, I'm just excited about how fast people are adopting to the new technology. And it's all age groups. Right. I think before, the pandemic, it was, you had your Gen X's, Gen Y's adapting to that. But I think across the board, more and more, and companies are also looking at this in a broader spectrum of how do they address the technologies for each segment of the population so that it makes it easy for them.
What is the secret? Because I think proverbially, there's supposedly this age gap where folks that are in their golden years, the idea is that, they don't want the technology. And it turns out, the data seems to show, no, they do want the technology. How do we create technologies that are accessible for everybody? Well,
I think it's segmenting out, right? I think when you look at trying to create a technology that's, a blanket for everybody, we've seen in the past, it just doesn't work. So I think the companies that are focusing on that age group and how to address them and how to really allow them to interface with the technology, those are the ones that are, I think more prepared to address that market space than someone that is just kind of expecting everybody, doesn't matter what generation they're in, to adopt to their technology.
So you want to serve everyone's needs, but you're not forcing the customer to do certain things.
Yeah, because not everybody's going to interact the same way with technology. Some people will use, a very limited portion of it. And so how do you segment, make it easy or quick type menus versus a more complex menu if that's what your self-service requires?
I love that. And going a little bit broadly, and this might be partly selfishly, because I spend so much time around digital signage, I don't get to enjoy as many of the trends in this space. What do you predict in the coming year, next year? What are some of the big things coming down the pike, not just from Epson, but in the industry in general? And how can people prepare to leverage that for ROI and profit?
I think the little that I'm seeing now, or the growth that I'm seeing, is really more partnerships between the technologies, right? Because there's the hardware portion of it, the software, and then also how do those combine, whether it's a payment method. And ultimately, the goal is to make it simple for someone to come to a technology, have it intuitive enough for them, and make it easy to use. Because if you go somewhere and the technology is difficult to use, you don't want to do that. You'll go back and wait back in line to talk to a person. But if the technology is there, it's easy to use. I think the adoption of that technology just makes it more user friendly, and the ROI will be there because then you have less people at the counter.
If you could target one thing as a developer, as a consumer, as an expert, one of the biggest mistakes that you see being made throughout the day, what would it be?
I think, from the product management side, is making the assumption that people will learn how to use your product, or forcing them to use to learn how your product uses. You have to, I think from my standpoint, from a PM standpoint, you have to really understand how does someone want to interface with it. What do they want from it, and will it give them what they're expecting?
Now, I keep hearing people saying it's quite the buzzword, and I see all the articles almost every day come out. All the sort of holographic metaverse, avatar, all these different things. Is that hype? I mean, I saw an article about, Mark Zuckerberg bet it all on his version of what do you think? Is that the future?
That's a great question. I think definitely maybe not that exact version that Mark wants to have will be there, but some fashion of that definitely will be there. I think we're already kind of diving deep into VR and other technologies, and I think some portion and companies will continue to work at it and start, I guess, baking the right recipe for people to actually adopt to it.
One of the things that you're pointing to that I love about all these different events that I've covered around the country in various verticals, there's a theme, I think, of use the latest and greatest technology where you can to help your customer without forcing them. But underneath that, there's some kind of holistic strategy for lasting success. And I'm curious, what are the principles for that, even at Epson? Through all the different, there's been fads for 30 years. What's the secret sauce to maintaining and growing your customer base?
Keeping in touch with your customers, from my perspective, I think is the most important. I think you can always bring technologies or new widgets to market, but your customers still need to be able to interface with you if there's a problem or they need some changes. So keeping that touch point, I think, is still important from a customer relationship standpoint, and also from partnerships, right? Because the technology shouldn't be there to create the gap. It should be there to enhance that relationship.
Enhance. I love that. Everything's a relationship. I heard it at an event and I wrote it down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we've seen too much of a lot of companies bring great products to market, but if they don't, I guess, really interface with their customers and really get to know them to make those slight adjustments to make it successful, that's where, you have certain products that come to market and they just, they're not quite as successful as those companies would have liked it to be.
Don't just talk, listen. It sounds like a relationship counseling session.
Oh, absolutely. Almost. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what it's about. I mean, it's great for a company to come out to market and bring something, but they also, in my opinion, have to listen to their customer, understand them, or also learn from their customer. I mean, one thing is listening, but like you said, a counselor also takes other cues to see what really is working for them and what's not.
How do you do that? Because, I mean, the old 90s way would be just send out email surveys, right? Like, what's the method that actually works?
I think it's a mixture of things, right? There are certain customers and certain demographics that, work well with surveys or emails. But I think the other, from our standpoint too, is those relationships, going out to your customers, having those discussions, or even their clients. I think part of it, we always look at one step, but going down and speaking with clients, the actual users of the technology, I mean, you get fantastic feedback. Sometimes it validates your what you expect to bring to market. And I guess the hard part is when they don't. They're like, no one's going to use this, but that's great because then you can reset, learn from your mistakes and bring something better to market.
I love that. I'm just now reading the shareholder letters from Jeff Bezos, his legendary when he was every day at the helm at Amazon. And I think I never realized that he read all the customer feedback emails he could get his hands on. And he talked about how even top-level decision-making would come from the customers love this, the customers hate this. Let's listen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, I mean, that's, I think, from, my area of the world on product management. I mean, that's really where we get those nuggets of information, the feedback, the good and the bad of it too. And I think sometimes it's hard to hear the bad because it's your baby, you brought it to market, but hearing that your baby's ugly sometimes, okay, well, right, it's time to reset and do it again.
This is not parenting advice.
No one.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you one last burning question from me before I give you the bully pulpit. I'm curious, we hear so much about sustainability with the European companies I chat with. They're doing a lot of amazing things. American firms are doing amazing things. And there's a lot of people that are nervous. We just saw, I think the COP28 summit was launching, and I saw Emmanuel Macron. A lot of world leaders are talking about innovations. What is Epson doing to help with sustainability, and what can consumers do to help with sustainability?
Well, from our side, we have corporate initiatives definitely focused on that. We're going to go carbon negative, or we're going to try to go to carbon negative by 2050, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're working on that. But I think from our side, or at least definitely from our division, is our partners, right? With point of sales devices, it consumes paper, but there's a lot of innovation going on outside of our industry to reduce waste, more eco-friendly paper. Because until we move away from using paper, it's still there and it has to be disposed. And I think having our partners also look at kind of the full value of, the technology value of not only the hardware, but all the consumables and items that go into it. I mean, we are an ecosystem, right? And we're kind of dependent on our partners as well. And so working with those partners, making sure that their technology works properly with ours, is really one of the ways that we're working towards also helping, areas outside of our industry.
I'm hearing again, everything's a relationship, the ecosystem, almost the co-opetition even.
Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, it's, again, everybody wants their winning product, but we're in an area where we share those customers, and working with, not only our side from a hardware side, but working with either paper manufacturers or label manufacturers, it helps everybody.
Now, with some of these new technologies, with reducing paper waste and so forth, how much of this is, okay, we can email or text you a receipt? How much of it might be, I don't know, e-paper or some new invention? Like, what's going on there?
I think there's a lot of it going on. And that's one of the items I think that are still baking, right? I don't think right now there's necessarily a silver bullet for that, because some people do want the e-receipts. Some people want it emailed or texted to your phone. But I don't think that I've seen, at least from our areas, a company that has quite successfully done it there to that extent where people are really adapting to it and moving over to it. There's always going to be, at least for some while longer, some need for paper. If you're a business user, you need it for your receipts, your expenses, or if for tax reasons, there still is a large need for paper out there.
Or writing terrible poetry. Oh, that's
absolutely.
No, this is great. So I'm curious, this year you brought some goodies with you. What are some of the new things that you're most excited to show folks here at the show?
Well, again, for the Self-Service Summit, we brought products that are geared for the kiosk market. So we have printers that are designed to be embedded in the kiosk market, some drop-in solutions for printers, but we also have brought from the demand of the market is our label printers. Because we are seeing some, from a self-service standpoint, people want to be able to check into the hospital and get their visitor name badge, or from a corporate level or enterprise level, go into a corporate office, sign in, and have your visitor name badge. And so we're also excited to be able to show our L100 here. at the show.
Is that related to when I was at the airport kiosk, which blows my mind the way airports have gone future tech, right?
Yeah.
And I had some trouble with my boarding pass on my phone, so I ended up pushing the button for just go ahead and print my boarding pass. And it felt so good to have that in my hand because the Wi-Fi wasn't working right, and I was freaking out that I would miss my flight. And then, okay, I've got on the paper. It's me.
Yeah. No, I think, and that's a great point. It's still that physical, that tactile touch. It kind of is reassuring. So I think it's still not going to go away, and it just kind of gives you that backup, I guess, too. I mean, it's great to go digital, but as you mentioned, if Wi-Fi is down, if there's something, whatever's happening, being able to still print a hard copy and board your flight is definitely something that people don't want to get away from.
So I could come have this amazing conversation, which I hope we have further ones. I'm going to bookmark your info. Now, I'm curious, if I could just hand it over to you for a second, if you could have one burning message to the industry, businesses, investors, consumers, what would it be for the coming year?
Stay the course. I think, what we've seen in definitely this last year is a lot of businesses kind of slowed down. I think part of it was, post-pandemic and the rush to get equipment and not having it there. Finally, equipment's there, but the market's kind of being a little bit softer. But we are seeing what we are hearing. It's staying the course, and the market's slowly coming back. And I think there's a lot of research going on by retailers. So I think it's hard when you don't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel. But my advice is stay the course.
So it sounds like long-term thinking and patience are important. And again, to tie to this theme, I'm hearing if you cultivate those relationships in the industry with your consumers, we can all get through things together.
Oh, absolutely. Well said. That is absolutely true.
I love that. Well, we've clearly become an inspirational podcast. I like it a lot.
I love it.
So next time we're going to be saving your marriages, it's going to be, just don't listen to the parenting advice. Yeah. We'll stay away from that.
Excellent.
Well, Frank, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you.
And this is a wonderful thing. I'm excited to come see your booth and see what you got.
Yeah, I'll be happy to give you a tour. Looking forward to it.
As business leaders look for ways to improve productivity and profitability, they're increasingly turning to innovative automation and self-service technologies. But keeping up with the rapid pace of new innovations can be overwhelming. Now there's a website to help you do just that. From the publishers of Kiosk Marketplace, Vending Times, and Digital Signage Today, Automation and Self-Service covers trends in artificial intelligence, robotics, kiosks, payments, and much more. Visit the site today and subscribe at www.automationandselfservice.com.